This is Rob Tebbett for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Back here again. I'm with Kevin Barry. I'm down at the lovely Team Barry gym here in Las Vegas, Nevada. How you doing, Kev?
Mate, I'm doing great, and it's always a pleasure to have you, Rob, and Boxing Social here in my gym.
Thanks very much. That's probably the nicest you've ever been to me. Thanks very much, Kev.
You know I mean that heartfully.
I know you do. You're a very honest man. I appreciate that. How have you been? I last was here June time for around Fury Schwartz. What have you been up to?
Just working away. In fact, of late, I've just started working with a new heavyweight, Guido Vianello, who is 4-0. Blasted through his first 4 opponents in 6 rounds. He's fighting a guy, Cassius Anderson, 7-1. In the 6th rounder on Tyson's undercard on Saturday, and I've had Guido in the gym for the last 6 weeks. Really like this young man. I think he's going to be an exciting prospect.
I think the last time I was here was around the sort of time that you started working together, around that June time. How did that come about?
Well, his manager, Sam Jones, came and asked me if I'd be interested for a start, and my son Taylor put together an open dialogue for a few weeks with Sam and Guido's personal assistant, Luca. And the next minute we had them in the gym. We met face to face. They weren't very happy with the team they were with at the time. We did a 1-week trial, and Guido said to me, I love it. And after that, he moved into my house. So I've got Guido and Joseph Parker in the house, and Guido's been with us for the last 6 weeks. And you can't rebuild a fighter in 6 weeks, but we've made some really nice changes that Guido's excited about, and I'm very excited about. The guy's 6'6.5", and we've got him fighting like a big man. I didn't like the style that he had beforehand. He was, he was getting in too close on shorter opponents, and he doesn't need to be there. And if you've got the physical attributes that he has, the height and the reach and the movement, you use it. And he's doing that now. And I'm happy with what we've achieved in 6 weeks.
How is it when you take somebody not only into your stable but also into your home? I know you were very, very close with Joseph Parker. You've worked together for a number of years and lived together for a number of years. How is it bringing somebody else into that dynamic, and how does he fit in?
Well, look, I've always had fighters in my house, ever since I can remember. Living in New Zealand, we always had fighters staying with us from different countries. My children grew up with fighters in the house, but let me tell you this. At the stage of life where I'm at the moment, it has to be someone pretty special for me to bring him into the house. I won't train a fighter I don't like. And I remember when I sat down with Sam Jones and he said, Kevin, you are going to love this guy. He is a tremendous young man. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And I went, well, I've had Joseph Parker living with me for 7 years, and he's like my son. And Joe is a classy, wonderful guy. Guido he's settled into our house very, very well. Lovely young man. Him and Joe have become great mates in a short time. And Guido's very excited about being in the house. He comes from a very close family, and he was up training in Big Bear. He felt very isolated. He felt that he wasn't getting the attention that he needed. He was lonely, and we've put him in a family environment now where he's fitted in very well, and as he says in every opportunity he gets in an interview, how happy he is, not only with his boxing training but with his lifestyle here in Vegas.
How is it working with Sam Jones? Sam, by his own admission, is somewhat of a polarising figure in British boxing, I think it's fair to say. What's it like working with Sam?
Sam is a real character, and I love Sam's energy. Sam's a young manager, but a manager who's really made some big moves in the last couple of years. Mainly with Joe Joyce, who he's done a tremendous job with, and then signing Guido Vianello. who he put a deal together with Top Rank, a long-term deal. He's put sponsors and a team around him, and he's now brought him to me. Sam is a smart boxing guy, a guy who loves his fighters and who loves his boxing.
Joseph Parker versus Derek Chisora.
Whoa.
On the undercard, I heard, of Josh Taylor versus Regis Prograis. First and foremost, it was quite a long, protracted negotiation. I know you were trying to get that fight earlier on in the year. There was some back and forth. Fight's finally been made. How did the deal finally come to pass, first of all?
Well, I think that fight was always going to happen. And I believe that, one is, it's a great fight. It's a great fan-friendly fight. But it's a fight that Derek Chisora needs Joseph Parker a lot more than Joseph Parker needs Derek Chisora. Chisora's getting paid fighting Joe. Joe, one of the top heavyweights in the world, the top half a dozen heavyweights in the world, and widely considered so. Chisora's he's like the Jekyll and Hyde of the heavyweight division. You really don't know what you're going to get. 1 minute he looks like he's got one leg out of the door into retirement, and the next fight he looks rejuvenated and looks like a world beater. So, with him you never really know what you're going to get, and because of that, you have to prepare properly. This is a fight and a style that we are very excited about, and I think it's the style that will bring out the best in Joseph Parker.
What did you make of his outburst at the press conference? Some people quite liked it, others didn't. What were your thoughts?
Look, I tell you what, I loved it. There's no doubt about that. We have, for this fight, we have the New Zealand television, and it's a very important part of the business of this fight that we get good coverage in New Zealand. And with Derek going off on a rant like he did, it doesn't help the TV. It doesn't help us. Well, it helps us big time. It doesn't do us any harm at all. So I was excited by it. I felt a little bit sorry for the 140-pounders fighting for the title. They're terrific fighters, both champions. A little bit disrespectful, but I think he had to do that to really bring his point across. Will we end up being the main event? I doubt it. But we've got a lot of people talking now about Derek Chisora going off on a rant.
You certainly have. Do you believe that you should be top of the bill? Of
course, yeah. I think that Joseph Parker should be the main bill every time he fights. This is a fight. This is a fight that has a lot of attention. Chisora's fought at the O2 Arena in his last 5 fights. Joseph Parker's fought in the UK in the 3 times in the last 2 years. We had the Goodwill title defense against Huey Fury. We lost the mega fight against Anthony Joshua, being the first guy ever to go the distance with him, and finding a referee that did not do us any favours at all in that fight. And of course, the controversial loss to Dillian White. But Joseph Parker has made a name for himself in the UK. He is very well liked and very well supported there, and we have a huge fan base there. And I know Chisora's one of those type of guys where a lot of people support him because he's the underdog, and he's been able to rise to the occasion time and time again. And that's what makes this such an exciting fight.
I know you've been negotiating for a while now. Without Josh Taylor versus Regis Prograis, would Chisora Parker have been pay-per-view?
Look, I don't know. There was definitely going to be questions about that. As I mentioned before, Derek Chisora is the Jekyll and Hyde man. His performances have been up and down, coming off 2 great victories. The last fight, the devastating knockout of Arda Spilka, because of that performance, he was able to get this Joseph Parker fight. His win before that didn't look too flash. The fight before that, was beating Dillian Whyte and found himself rendered unconscious. So, he's had those ups and downs. The fight before that, he knocks out Carlos Takam in a fight that everyone thought Takam would knock him out, and nearly did early in the fight. So, he's definitely a warrior. He calls himself War Chisora, and he's going to bring war, and that's great. But look, Chisora's a bully, and if you let him bully you, he'll win. He can't bully Joseph Parker. Joe, for a start, Joe's skill level is too high for Derek Chisora. Joe's speed is too fast for Derek Chisora. So, but we aren't going to get out there and move around and box and stay away and use his jab and his movement. Joe's going to step to Derek Chisora and knock him out. We need to make a statement in this fight. And we believe that we have the right guy in front of us to make a big statement in the UK. Now, behind Fury and Joshua and Dillian Whyte is Derek Chisora. He's the number 4th ranked heavyweight in the UK. And there's pretty impressive guys in front of him. And we don't just want to beat him. We want to knock this man out.
We've spoken in the past at great length about the dog in Joseph Parker, needing to find that dog, that animal, that mongrel is the word that we referred to. Mm-hmm. In the Dillian Whyte fight, it was a rough fight, it was a tough fight. You spoke to me after that about him needing to go and find that. Derek Chisora
is a bigger dog than Whyte.
He's not scared of potentially roughhouse tactics and bending the rules here and there. How are you going to prepare for that?
Well, obviously Joe's a different fighter. Not only did Joe take Dillian Whyte's best punches in that fight, but he took his best headbutts as well, and then got up. We saw in the Chisora-Whyte fight, Chisora couldn't take Whyte's best punch. Joe is far tougher, far more durable, and a much better fighter. The biggest concern I have about this fight is not Derek Chisora. It's about the BBBOC doing the right job, appointing the right officials that can actually take control of a fight and follow the rules and regulations of the sport of professional boxing. There are rules for a reason. This is not cage fighting. This is not bare knuckle fighting. This is professional boxing. And we need officials that actually do their job and do their job properly. And I think at the moment, with the scandals that are out there in British boxing, the world's eyes are going to be on the BBBOC. And I would like to really hope that this being our 4th fight in the UK, they know our team. They know how we work. We're a very professional organisation. We follow the rules. We do a good job. We promote the fight. We're very fan-friendly. We just want the respect of good officials. We want good, honest officials that can officiate the fight.
That's in an ideal world. We don't live in an ideal world. Boxing is not an ideal sport.
So what are you telling me? They're going to set us up again?
I'm not saying anything, but what I'm suggesting is if you don't get that, how do you prepare for these roughhouse tactics that have, in the past, been a contributing factor to Joe coming unstuck?
Okay. Well, believe me, if there's any roughhouse tactics, we'll be giving as good as we take. But it won't matter because, as I mentioned before, Joe's knocking Chisora out. This is not a fight that's going 12 rounds like the Dillian Whyte fight. This fight is going to be over quick.
We saw, obviously, Dillian Whyte score a spectacular one-punch knockout on Derek Chisora. We saw Chisora at times, or certainly early on in the fight, look to, I don't know if hurt's the right expression, but certainly felt some shots from Senad Gashi, who's not really known as a puncher. Took a lot of shots in the Takam fight. This is something I spoke to his now ex-trainer Dave Caldwell about. Do you feel that potentially his punch resistance is starting to wane?
Look, I know that Derek Chisora is a fighter who's had a lot of wars and a lot of tough fights. And, I looked at that Dillian Whyte knockout, and as a trainer, you look at fighters and you look at the wear and tear on fighters, and there's one fight in every fighter's career where you know that that's going to chip away at them, and they're never ever going to get back to the level where they were. And I believe that could have been the fight for Derek Chisora. Joseph is a much stronger fighter now than the guy who got into the ring with Dillian Whyte. He's a much more aggressive fighter. He's a much more physical fighter. We've had a couple of fights since then. We've had two. This is our third training camp since the Whyte fight. I've brought in very rough sparring partners, very aggressive guys, and I've given them free rein. I'm not telling you what I've got them doing, but I mean, Joe is prepared for any sort of fight.
How much, if at all, was drug testing a factor in the delay in getting the fight announced? I know that was something that David Higgins spoke very publicly about, wanting a clear testing window, as it were, with VADA. How much, to your knowledge, was that a hold-up in the negotiations?
Well, I can't confirm that it was a hold-up, but it seems really strange that when you get a fight where two guys had already accepted the fight months beforehand, you get Chisora walking out of the ring after knocking out Arthur Spilker, standing beside his manager saying, okay, now we want Joseph Parker. That fight could have been made that day. We were ready to make that fight that day, and yet week after week after week goes by, and we still have no contract. So look, I don't know what they were doing, but that fight should have been made a long time ago, and Joe would have been here a long time ago. We'd just started our third week of training, but the beautiful thing for me is the Joseph Parker that came back into camp this time, as he has done in the last two fights. He came back to me on fight weight. Joe walked into the gym at 110 kilograms. He had been doing a lot of strength and conditioning back in New Zealand. I mentioned before his strength level is the best it's ever been throughout his career. He's a much stronger, more mature athlete now. He's grown into his man body. That's why when they say, Parker will run, he will not run. Joseph Parker will stand there and he'll time Derek Chisora and he'll knock him out.
Okay, well, just finally, before I let you go, two people you know very well are going to be having a rematch in Saudi Arabia. Andy Ruiz against Anthony Joshua, a rematch of their unified heavyweight title fight. Talk to me about the fight. Where's your money in that one?
Look, I tell you what, I think it's a great fight. It's an exciting fight. It's a fight that will do bigger numbers than the first fight did, where nobody expected Andy Ruiz to be in it. You spoke to me before the fight. You know that our opinion was that people were fooling themselves to write Andy Ruiz off. Joe fought him in December of 2016. We know how good Andy Ruiz is. We know how fast he is for a short heavyweight. We know the skill level that he has, and we know his durability. And I think this time around, Anthony Joshua will take the fight a lot more seriously. I said after the first fight that I'm sure Joshua and his team would love a redo, because when he had him hurt in the third round, he ran in recklessly with no respect for Ruiz's power and durability and got caught and simply never recovered. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think we're looking at footage and photos of Anthony Joshua. He's taken off a lot of muscle. He's doing a lot of training for mobility. He's going to be moving a lot freer and a lot faster than he did in the first fight. And I think that he will be throwing more punches, and which he needs to be. He needs to reinvent himself. But I honestly think with the team that he has around him, I think I'm one of the guys who have always supported Robert McCracken. I thought he's done a great job, not only in the amateurs, but look, he got him all the way through to winning the world title, multiple world titles. The idiots that are saying change your trainer, I just don't know where that comes from. It comes from people that don't really give a lot of thought to what that trainer means to that fighter and what the success that they've had together, McCracken is the guy to turn him around in the rematch.
Okay, well, Kevin Barry, always a pleasure catching up with you. Really grateful for you having me down to this lovely facility again. I'm now going to go and interview Mr. Parker, as he's just arrived for his session. Kevin Barry, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social, and I will see you very, very soon.
Always my pleasure, Rob.